Defence of the Realm is a political thriller released in 1986, directed by David Drury.
When prominent MP Dennis Markham is photographed leaving a woman's house on the same evening as someone who's suspected of being a KGB agent, he's accused of colluding with the Russians. So veteran reporter Vernon Bayliss knows Markham personally and believes he's being framed, while his colleague Nick Mullen, who's played by Gabriel Byrne, is pursuing the story, which results in Dennis Markham quitting his job as an MP. But when Bayliss dies of a heart attack on the same night that his flat's been burgled, Mullen realises that everything might not be as it seems.
That's true. So, I thought this was a fantastic little thriller.
Yeah?
Really, really good. I'd never seen it before. I had heard of it. It's kind of one of those films that kind of had been on my peripheral a little bit. I knew of it, but had never seen it, didn't really know much about it. But I really enjoyed it, and I really got hooked into it. I found it really gripping. I mean, basically, the majority of the film takes place in the offices of a fictional newspaper. And it's what I really liked about it was how kind of detailed it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it really shows you the kind of the inner workings of 1980s journalism in this country and probably much of the rest of the world as well, in a time before the internet.
Yeah.
And watching how they do their jobs, like phoning in a report from a grocery shop telephone because he's stuck out in the middle of nowhere, little things like that, and then within the office itself there's loads of because in those days, I think I liked it because, so before I do what I do now, I used to work for a photographic archive, so we were working with, although we were doing it digitally because it was only 10-15 years ago, we were still working with old negatives and old prints, and a lot of where I was working, a lot of photo archives and agencies sell pictures to newspapers, TV, BBC, all that kind of stuff. So we had a lot of old photographs that were used within the kind of the offices of newspapers, and you'd know it because what was written on the back, and they'd have either like the Times might be stamped on the back or something like that. So it was really interesting from that point of view watching this film, because there are moments where they're having to do their research and looking at old cuttings and photocopying things, and then you've got shelves full of like old dusty archives and files and things like that. And then when he has to crop into a shot, he takes it into the dark room and they enlarge it in the dark room. And it's just great. I love that kind of real procedural element to this film, which you don't often see. And
if it was made now, it'd be a Google search.
It would just be a Google
print
search.
Print it out in about 30 seconds.
Exactly. He'd be in the grocery store on his phone. He would just tap it in, Twitter it in, or something like that. So I really like that. And it felt, obviously it is set in the 80s, it's made in the 80s. Even down to the walls of topless page 3 girls.
That took me by surprise because it's a PG. I was like, there's some boobs. But then... of course, it was it was page 3, wasn't it? So it wasn't like anything, it wasn't sort of X-rated or anything. It was just boobs were just there on page 3, weren't they? So
that's what it was in the 80s. So from that side of it, I thought it was really interesting to kind of see the inner workings of journalism and newspapers. So
yeah, definitely.
I thought that was really good.
Yeah, I originally chose it. Well, back last year we were doing themes, and I was just thinking of different themes. I thought, political thrillers, might be a good one. Yeah, I picked up the DVD and we've ditched the themes for now, so I thought we would bring it out. And obviously, there's lots of stuff going on with Russia at the moment, if you've been aware of the news at all. So 86, when this was made, the Cold War was still a thing and going on. It looks like we might be heading back to similar times, maybe spying and all sorts of things going on. And who knows what the government's up to these days, apart from partying. So yeah, we could see a return of sort of political thrillers like this. Not that they've ever really gone away, but certainly Russians being the bad guys, perhaps. Although they're not really bad guys in this, are they? It's just, this MP is suspected or accused of being a Russian spy.
That element sets up what takes place in the film, but it very quickly moves away from that. And in fact, Russia is not the focus here.
Not really, no.
At all. He's part of, he is this man that's seen, and the same guy comes up again with something later on. But yeah, that's the beginning.
There's apparently some sort of cover-up,
There's a big cover-up going on about something, yeah.
One thing I didn't like, which is not uncommon for these sort of films, is there's a bit at the start with a couple of kids driving a car, and then they're suddenly chased by the police. So you see them, okay, well, maybe they've stolen it. And then they come to a halt outside some big gates, and one of them climbs over and the other one's caught by the police. And then that's it. You cut away, and then we cut to the photos being taken of Markham. By the time that event at the start is relevant, I'd completely forgotten about it, really, because it was so long. And there's, you know, with these films, the plot is quite dense, and you got to make sure you pay. I mean, it's not the most complex plot ever.
No.
There are more complex political thrillers out there, but you still got to pay attention, otherwise you completely lose what's going on. I mean, even then, when they're taking the photos at the start, you can't really see who they're taking photos of, why they're taking photos of them, and then it's the next scene where they're discussing it, where you kind of start to learn who they're talking about and what they think he's done or hasn't done, and who the photos were of.
I didn't find that such a problem for me.
No,
although, actually, well, I mean, I started watching it last night, and then I restarted it and finished it today because I got quite late last night. I want to go to bed, so I had to kind of seen the beginning twice. So maybe that helped a little bit, but I didn't find that so much. I really liked that open. I thought the opening scene, the opening shot of this film, where the car that these two guys are driving in, they're driving down this road. It's at night, so you just see the lights coming down the road, and it's all dark. And then the camera kind of pans down, you know, a jib shot or something. The camera comes flying down, and you're like, hang on a minute, the car's getting close. And then the car drives over the camera. So the camera must have... In fact, I read about it, because they dug a trench in the road.
Oh,
so
right.
obviously, because I was like, how the hell? Because obviously, I mean, nowadays you could probably do it with the drone, and the car could just drive over the drone easy. But in those days, the camera had to be on a crane. So I was like, because the car's got to hit... But yeah, they dug a trench. But actually, what happened is they didn't dig it, or it didn't get down low enough, quick enough, so the car actually crashed into the camera.
Whoops.
Which I think maybe you can see because it suddenly goes black. And it's like, well, but it was a very cool shot, and that's what kind of hooked me into the film. I felt, and I just kind of went with it.
Well, because it was shot by Roger Deakins.
It was.
Who, you know, obviously is quite a big name these days in cinematography, and has won Oscars, and I think, did he win one for 1917?
I think he did. I think was that his first Oscar?
Possibly. I don't think it's his first nomination.
No, not his first nomination, but I think that was his first Oscar, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, well known and well regarded, you know, highly regarded. So this is obviously an earlier work for him, but yeah, obviously showing potential.
Absolutely.
Even back then.
But yeah, I think, I mean, there's some great acting in this film as well. I mean, great cast, which I think helps as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, you know, actors that have appeared on British TV a lot over the years, and you've got Gabriel Byrne, who I've always found... I really like Gabriel Byrne, but you could be forgiven for finding him a bit boring, because he's very subtle. He's very subtle, very low-key performances. I mean, if you think of things like, I mean, Usual Suspects, obviously, and Miller's Crossing, and, I mean, he's done loads of films. There's a great New Zealand film called Jindabyne that I really like that he's in. I mean, he's done lots of films, and I always like him, but he's always very, he's just very, very low-key performances, as he is here as well. I was reading some reviews of this, and some people found him didn't really sell it for them. I think most people said in this one it was Denholm Elliott who really kind of stole the show.
Yeah, I mean, obviously when it was reviewed, when it came out, you know, everyone raved about his performance in it. I mean, he's not in it a huge amount.
No.
He dies quite early on, but he did win a Best Supporting Actor BAFTA for it. So, you know, he's good in it. Yeah, he sort of portrays that sort of world-weary veteran reporter pretty well. Who's, you know, likes a drink and...
Yeah, and he does acting drunk. I mean, acting drunk must be a hard thing to do, because, you know, being drunk is one thing, and acting drunk is, you know, I mean, obviously I'm sure a lot of actors, I'm sure many actors are professional, you know, I'm sure they don't get drunk and then be drunk while performing drunk. I'm sure there have been instances where that has happened, but...
name a couple of actors.
Probably, yeah, but I think, I mean, there is a scene here where he gets very drunk, and it's just great when you, like, you know, he's stumbling quickly along, and you're like, oh, that's exactly right, that's perfect. And I mean, he kind of, I think the scenes he's in, he steals the show a bit here. In fact, I think Gabriel Byrne himself said, was it, don't ever work with children, animals, or Denholm Elliott. But he's really great here. He's always great, Denholm Elliott. I mean, obviously a lot of people will know him from Indiana Jones. Yeah. And he's been in many other films as well. Toy Soldier, Trading Places.
Yeah, he's in Trading Places.
Toy Soldiers. And lots of old, I mean, The Cruel Sea, he was in that, and Alfie, he turned up in loads of British stuff and TV over the years as well. And they've got Robbie Coltrane is here. Little kind of blink and you miss it. It was just a good cast. Fulton Mackay, who was the officer in Porridge.
Bill Paterson,
who was in Comfort and Joy, that we did before as well. And also Greta Scacchi. I mean, she's not in it. I read somewhere there was, I think one article was suggesting that it was kind of like Gabriel Byrne teams up with Denholm Elliott and Greta Scacchi, and they go on the kind of hunt for this. And
most of the film he's on his own, isn't he?
He's on his own most of it. I mean, Denholm Elliott and Greta Scacchi both are kind of fleeting appearances here. I mean, she kind of comes into it later on a little bit more. A very early performance for her. I mean, she started out, she's English, but she moved out to Australia. They don't really give her much to do here. It's an early role for her. It is mainly Gabriel Byrne's film.
I mean, if it was made now, she would be in it much more, and there would basically be love interest, wouldn't she?
Yeah, there were moments, there were kind of glances here and there, and I was like, please don't go there.
Well, you just assume that that's going to happen because it always does.
Yeah, exactly. But it was quite nice that it didn't go there. Or if it did, it happens off screen at a later time. There's also a small performance by a guy called Danny Webb, who probably a lot of people know a lot for TV, but he was in Alien 3. He plays one of the kind of my favourite character in Alien 3, actually. I always look out for him he didn't do a lot of films, but I often look out for him in TV because I always liked him in Alien 3. He's really good in that film. And he's a photographer.
Yeah.
Who takes an amazing I don't know if you noticed it. There's an incredible shot in this film. It's near the beginning when they first go to Markham's wife's house.
Yep.
So the day after all this, there's literally, the story's broken, and of course they're going down to interview the wife to find out her take on her husband's shady dealings. And you've got all the journalists there. This red car, comes down the street and then reverses into
that was a weird moment.
Journalist, which looks incredibly painful because he bumps into him quite badly, and his whole back kind of goes backwards and hits the car window. And I just thought, and then the next shot, he's like standing there and he's all okay. But I thought, is that what is? I don't
know. That was a bit weird, wasn't it?
It was a weird moment.
So I mean, I think a good little political thriller that's kind of been forgotten. It did get a little bit of a resurgence a few years ago when it was given away with a newspaper. But since then it's sort of been forgotten again. Although it was released on Blu-ray last year by Network. I mean, I've got the DVD for the old Silver collection. I've got to say, I can't recommend it. The picture was awful, as was the audio. It was all echoey and crap, and the picture was all muddy and murky, and a load of rubbish. So I wouldn't pick up the DVD unless you really have to. Yeah, there was a Blu-ray released by Network last year, which has got, I think it's got interviews, a featurette, and even a booklet as well.
Okay.
So that's if you are a fan of it, that's probably the way to go. And I think it's had a 2K restoration from the negative, so the picture, I would imagine it looks a hell of a lot better than this piece of crap. So
yeah, I think I'd be interested to pick that up because I really enjoyed it, and I'd like to watch it again. I think I think the whole film works well. I was hooked into the plot. Yes, I mean, it's not the most complicated political thriller. I mean, at times obviously being set in a newspaper offices, there are times that kind of makes you think of All the President's Men, which is kind of similar. I mean, obviously that is based on a real case. This is all made up. Although actually the beginning bit is very similar to the Profumo affair in this country in the 60s. But just that, and the rest of the film is. Although actually, no, I was reading that there are similar. So I mean, there is without going too far into the plot, there is a whole part of the plot here is something that takes place at a U.S. Air Force base, and some of the stuff that happens in this film did kind of similar things happened in real life back in the 50s. I think 1953 and 1964, two events that happened that the government actually kind of hushed up a little bit, and we didn't find out about them later. So there is it is based on factual things. This film, it's not kind of too convoluted. It's not there's not too many things going on. So I think it's good fun. I think it's really enjoyable. I also really enjoyed the music as well. The music was done by a composer called Richard Harvey, who's done a lot of things. There's not a name I knew.
No.
He was in a progressive rock band called Gryphon that I think I'd heard of. But again, not a name I know, but he's gone on to do lots of he's worked a lot in Hollywood and Britain and everything. But I just thought the soundtrack here was really interesting, and it did some really interesting. There were some interesting moments in here. There's a great moment in here where Gabriel Byrne is looking at, so he's going through some paper cuttings about Markham, and the first one he picks up is something to do with, you know, Markham has found the love of his life, and the music cue was quite whimsical, and then the next thing is something about a drink driving charge, and the music kind of turns slightly darker, and then the next one is more something obviously more close to the plot in hand, and the music gets even darker. I just thought the music really had some interesting cues here that I noticed a lot throughout the film. I found myself kind of rewinding and just listening again because I thought that was really interesting. I think there's lots to like in this film, actually. I think the performances were all great. I thought the plot was gripping for me, anyway. I read some reviews that people said similar things. They found it quite an interesting film.
It seems to be, yeah. I mean, while it's sort of a bit forgotten about, people who remember it fondly. So
yeah, and if you're a fan of British TV, there was a number of faces here. Clyde from EastEnders makes a quick appearance at the beginning, if you remember his character.
Talking of the US Air Force Base in the cast, Al Matthews makes a very brief appearance in that scene. He played Sergeant Apone in Aliens.
Okay.
I thought I recognised his voice when
he
spoke, and I looked it up, and yep, that was him.
Cool.
Which of course was released the same year as this as well, actually, wasn't it?
It was 86.
Maybe he was working down the road or something at Pinewood or wherever Aliens was made, and went in for an afternoon or something. Who knows?
Amazing. And that was Defence of the Realm. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, let us know in the comments below.
Hit the subscribe button up there, and don't forget to push the bell for notifications. There's some other videos to check out over there. Come and find us on social media, and join us again soon for another video.